What's up, knife freaks, sharpness geeks, and purveyors of stabby goodness? Welcome to the Knife Freak Show. My name's Jonathan McNeese, joined by my lovely co-host, Miss Amy McNeese.
What's up, guys?
All right, so as you guys can maybe tell from some of these last couple of podcasts, we're still kind of experimenting with getting the layout, trying to figure out exactly where the best lighting is and all that stuff. We were recording in our office. It's awfully cramped in there and all that. So now we got the shop and stuff in the background. So we'll see how this does. We'll get it figured out. If you see he's gone now. Roscoe was back there wagging his tail in the background, so he wanted to be in on the. Yeah, he's still there.
Down.
Yeah, he wanted to be in on the podcast. Oh, good old shop dog. All right, so had a good week this week.
It was busy.
It was busy as usual. I think we had a very good, productive week though. Lots of new stuff going on. I keep mentioning that on here on the podcast and on Instagram and stuff. But yeah, we're on a mission right now to really put out lots of new stuff, new configurations, new milling patterns. Got new fixed blades coming down the line, like lots of new stuff. I think got a little complacent, a little guilty of we had the Mac 2 and even then the Dixon that did really well for us, and we kind of got in. Well, a lot of it was that we were figuring out our production capabilities as we were going, right? Like we weren't that great at being able to put out decent numbers, even for like the amount of people that we had. So we've been working really hard on figuring out our systems, getting things figured out better so that our processes and systems were more efficient and then we could actually put out more product. That's actually going reasonably well now. And so now it's time to decide on, or to get with it on getting new stuff out there. It was very hard when we were struggling to get out decent numbers of the stuff that we already had, the designs and stuff. It was really hard to force myself to do new stuff, because every time you do something new, you're introducing them potential for more problems and headaches and stuff. And we were already having so many headaches and problems that it didn't seem logical to continue to try to add more new stuff. But now it's gotten a lot better. We're doing lots of new stuff. It's kind of killing me, to be honest with you. Like
to not be able to tell everybody.
Yeah, because we've got stuff back there. Like I was taking pictures and videos and stuff earlier, and I'm seeing like different handle patterns and stuff that we've got going that nobody's seen yet. And I'm like, man, like this, I'm not used to waiting this long to. Usually we do something like we're almost immediately unveiling it, and so
you loved a good surprise.
Well, I do, but I don't necessarily like waiting that long to reveal it. I like a quick surprise, like, okay, we got something new for you, surprise. But now it's like we're working on it. We've got handle patterns that we've been working on for 2 or 3 weeks now, or maybe longer, maybe a month, the oldest one. And they haven't seen the light of day yet. So
are you gonna give us any insight to any of that, or are you just gonna say all that and keep it to yourselves?
Yeah, no, we're gonna keep it to ourselves. We've got a couple of new milling patterns coming. Well, let's see. We got several new milling patterns coming spread across the different models. So right now we're kind of slowing way down on the Dixons for a little bit, because we've run real heavy on Dixons for almost a year now, really close to a year, probably at least 10 months. We've been running really heavy on them. We're back to running 3-inch Mac 2s, and this week we'll be starting to build the first of the Mac 2 3.5s with the new high performance hollow grinds. And they actually, that's one I forgot about. They actually have a brand new milling pattern on them as well. So the very first ones of those that we drop with the new grinds on them will have also a brand new milling pattern on the handles.
So is it a brand new milling pattern, or is it a throwback pattern?
Both. Okay. Both. Yeah, it's a throwback to some stuff we did back in the handmade days. And I'll say this, for those of you that are really paying attention, know your history, we actually did some very early on the Mac 2s, but we did them by hand. We didn't do the pattern on the handles was done by hand. We did not do them on the machine. So that's a pretty big clue. Some of you will probably pick up on that. But now I've gotten that pattern dialed in on the machine, and so we're going to be doing that, a lot more of them. So, yep. So lots of new stuff there. Think of anything else that was kind of pertinent over the last week or so?
I don't really think so. We have a new employee starting tomorrow.
Yeah, we did add somebody new.
A new machinist that
Yep.
we're hoping is going to be a great addition to the team. And he's going to work some evenings so that you're going to not have to work some evenings, hopefully.
That will definitely help. That's not freeing me up is not the main reason we're doing it, but it definitely will have that effect. Now, we've talked about that some before, but basically we're to the point now where we have enough machines that what we need to do, instead of just hiring more people, it makes sense to run the machines that we have. Or no, let me rephrase that. Instead of buying more machines to put out more parts, we need the machines that we have running as close to 24 hours a day as we can. So therefore, even though we don't have a ton of employees, it kind of seems a little crazy to be running like a second shift with as few employees as we have. But at the same time, it's what's going to help us to maximize the output on the machine. So it makes sense because it doesn't matter if we got a shop full of employees, the machine can still only put out so many parts in so many hours. So by having people come in here and work other shifts, then it's going to allow us to have more stuff produced on the machines. And so then we'll go from there. And then when we're on the handwork side of stuff, the manpower stuff, when we need people for that, we'll just add people for that. And eventually we'll need to add more machines. But for now, if we can just run the ones we have more, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. So yeah, that is exciting that we've got somebody new starting for that. With I think that's going to be a really good thing for us. So one thing I did this past week, just a couple of days ago, I went on another podcast. It's called Meat in the Mayhem. I would recommend that you guys go check it out. Some really good guys doing that, and they're really big, pro-American made. I thought they had some really thoughtful questions and stuff that they asked. So go check it out. Like I said, it's called Meat in the Mayhem. And
is that MEAT or MEET?
I'm pretty sure it's MEAT, but I apologize if I've got that wrong. I would have looked it up if I'd known you were going to question me on it.
Sorry.
I'm pretty sure it's MEAT, but I'm going to put a link to it in my story. I meant to have already done it, but it's already out. You guys can go check it out. But for one thing, I wanted to give them a little shout out, but also they brought up a couple of points that I thought might be good for us to elaborate on more here on our podcast. So one of the questions that they asked me that I thought was interesting that I don't think anybody has ever asked me before is, did we ever think that we would go the route that a few others have gone, like Emerson Knives for one, where they pulled back and do not use dealers anymore. They just retailed everything themselves, no more wholesale. So I thought we might discuss that for a minute, and just dealers in general, because that's a kind of complex topic, and maybe there could be some of you out there that have, may be dealers or may be thinking about becoming dealers. There may also be knife makers out there that, either don't work with dealers much yet or whatever, and kind of don't know the ins and outs of it. So I just thought we could kind of go over that a little bit. Anything off the top of your head that you'd like to open with about dealers?
We have some pretty amazing dealers.
Yeah, we do.
Some very hardworking, try to help us grow in every way that they can dealers.
Yep.
We have some that we've weeded out in the past that we no longer work with because they didn't really align with where we were going.
Right.
And that is one thing that we look for. Anybody can say that they're a dealer and throw some knives up on a website, but that's not truly being a dealer. One of our biggest dealers, they show up right after we do on our search page when you look for our knives, because they've worked so hard to develop that on their side.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of what you're getting to is it's not as easy as it looks.
Correct.
It's not as easy as it looks. So yeah.
And kudos to them, because a lot of our dealers do make it look really easy, but I think that people have no idea how hard they're actually working.
Right. Yeah, and what all goes on behind the scenes. For example, what you mentioned about the one dealer that's that shows up so well on the search page. That's due to them doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes with their website, on their SEO, their search engine optimization, which is something a lot of people, if you're not in, you know, in that space, you probably don't even know a lot about what that is. But like it's little things like that. Well, it's kind of a big thing, but it's making sure you put in the right keywords. It's honestly some of that's kind of over my head, but we got people for that kind of, so that helps a lot. But yeah, they have done a really good job of doing that. And like I said, we've got a lot of good dealers. So let's just kind of start then with like the basics, because we've been working with dealers for a long time, starting back in the custom
A
days.
really long time.
You know, like we started almost immediately, really. Like, well, not immediately.
Oh, it was pretty immediate.
Pretty much.
You were making Devil's toothpicks for back in the day. We don't use them anymore. And I won't say his name, but
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, we had a couple. Yeah, I can't remember for sure who our actual first dealer was, but we had some. We kind of, you know, and you got dealers that specialize more in custom knives, which is some of those very early dealers that we had. That's why we don't work with them anymore, because they were primarily custom knife dealers, and obviously that doesn't fit our business model these days. So, but the basics of it is, guys, that they'll, you know, you go to work with a dealer. They sometimes they approach you, sometimes you approach them. We've done both, as a custom maker and as a production maker. There's been dealers that I've reached out to. You know, you got to set your ego aside, because especially if you've been around a while, and some of the ones I reached out to as a production, when we started our production stuff, was, you know, we've been around a while. You know, I felt like my name was out there pretty good, but then, you know,
of course, there's a sea of knife makers.
there's a lot. You got to remember that. You got to remember that there are so many people making knives out there these days that it takes, you got to have a pretty big ego to think that every dealer out there is going to have heard of every individual, you know, of you, that you're that special, that everybody's heard of you. So
you are that special, honey.
yeah, right. Just in my own head sometimes. But no, sometimes you've got to think, you know, like I've reached out to them like, hey, you know, like what you guys are doing, would you be interested in working with us? Here's what we do, or whatever. And then it's turned into a great relationship. But had I not, you know, they might have eventually found us, but definitely would not have started working with them as soon as we did if I hadn't reached out. And then like we get hit up now. At this point, we get hit up all the time for dealers, and it's at this point I think we're working with most of the major dealers. There's a few pretty good sized dealers that we don't work with just for whatever reason. They haven't reached out to us, and I haven't reached out to them yet. Probably need to follow my own advice and and actually reach out to a couple more. But also,
I mean, yes and no. It kind of depends. It's
yeah, depends on what they bring to the table, for one thing. It also depends on what we need at the time. You know, it doesn't do any good to keep adding dealer after dealer if we can't keep the dealers that we've got supplied in enough product and stuff. So that's one thing that
we haven't been long able to do that. Like,
right.
That's something new that, like, we may start looking at dealers again, but I don't know that's necessarily the right path right now either.
Having just tons of dealers is not necessarily a great thing either. It just depends. Like I said, you need to be able to send decent amounts to your really good dealers and stuff. So let's break down what we think a really good dealer is. Let's start with that then, or go into that. So here's the way I look at it, guys, and I think it's like it's kind of a fact. Like, so when you, obviously a dealer gets, we sell them the knives at wholesale, right? And it can differ from dealer to dealer. There's pretty standard numbers for most of them. For a dealer, it's pretty standard. So we sell them at a wholesale price, and the way I look at it is that percentage that we sell them for, that amount that we don't get paid, that we would get if we sold it for retail, that's essentially us paying them that amount to market and advertise for us. That's basically part of our advertising and marketing budget. It's a big part of our marketing and advertising budget, actually. And I didn't really think about it like that until a couple of years ago. Like I'd never really thought about it. I knew that they were marketing for us and stuff, but I never really stopped and thought about it. Like, 5 years ago, if somebody would ask us about our marketing budget, I would have never thought to say, oh, well, all this money, that this percentage that we sold the knives for, to dealers, that's our marketing budget. But it's, I mean, obviously we spend more than that on marketing now, but that is definitely part of your marketing budget. So you're essentially paying them to advertise and market for you. We're not, maybe some people do, but we definitely do not need somebody just to like run a website and fulfill orders. Like we can do that. We do it out. We literally ship orders every day. We're preparing orders and shipping orders at least every day that UPS will run here in the middle of nowhere. That's another story for another day. But so what we need is to basically, what we're trying to do is spread our brand and reach people that don't already know about us primarily, and so that's another thing. We don't need a dealer that only reaches customers that we already have. We don't need a dealer whose primary way of selling knives is to come into our Facebook group and post that they've got our stuff for sale, and then that's the only place that people see it. That's not really beneficial, because obviously the people in our Facebook group already know about us. Not that I mind them posting in there. That just can't be the only means of advertising and marketing. And we went through a spell there where when stuff was, when everything was really hot and heavy, and some of the really high, the stuff that was going really fast, the dealers kind of got a few of them here and there got a little bit bad about wanting to just throw a picture up, post it, not even necessarily post it on their social media and sell them. And that was it, which that, yes, we're getting some marketing and traffic out of that, but not like we should, not to be worth the percentage that we lose by selling to them. We had a talk with a couple of them, and they've done much better since then. Some we've dropped. It just kind of depends, but yeah, you got it. So for this would be more for those of you that are maybe knife makers that are looking to pick up dealers, or if you're looking to be a dealer or you are a dealer, that's something to think about. Like the dealer needs to provide value to the knife maker, the knife company. Like that's the whole point. But at the same time, the knife maker, the knife company is responsible for providing a product that's good quality, and that they're going to be able to sell reasonably easily. I mean, obviously we want our stuff to be as easy to sell as possible, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't still want the exposure. Just because it's a dealer can put it on their site and sell it out within 2 minutes doesn't necessarily mean that we don't want it posted on Instagram and all that, because you do that for a while, and in the short attention span culture that we live in, where we're bombarded with so much information and so many different knives and so many different things to distract us, if we don't stay in front of people's faces, even the people that know about you start to forget you, much less not, getting in front of people that don't already know about you. So that's extremely important, that even when stuff is selling really good, that the dealers still do their due diligence on making sure that they're still promoting your products. And on us, and this ties back into what I said in the beginning a little bit about how I kind of felt like I let things get a little stale. I failed a little bit on our end by not coming up with more new stuff sooner and keeping it fresh and just pumping out kind of the same stuff. I mean, we had quite a few variations, but we got in a routine where we were making the same variations of the same models kind of over and over and rotating through them.
Well, just like anything else, you get in a comfort zone, and it's easier to avoid further issues by continuing to do the same thing that you normally do.
Yeah, we got into a point where we hit a rhythm and we were actually being able to make stuff, but then every time you change something, it throws you out of rhythm, it slows down your production, and so then it would be like, all right, we could change and do something new, but it means we're probably going to slow down production, we're not going to get as many knives done. So it's like, now looking back on it, we would have been better off probably to, not that it really caused any major problems, but I do wish we'd have done a little better job of keeping things a little fresher all along. Hence all the new stuff that we're trying to do now. Like I'm trying to correct that.
I will add to that. It seems obvious now, but most of our really good dealers are also really good friends of ours.
Yep.
So I think that for knife makers who haven't dealt with dealers or just starting to do that, maybe like almost interview them. And if you
Yeah,
can see yourself being friends with them, then chances are they're going to work hard for you.
that's right. Yeah, that's a great point. And develop a relationship with them more than just you know, I mean, obviously it's a working relationship, but we've got dealers that we're extremely good friends with as well, even just outside of the business working relationship. So yeah, I think that's definitely important. That's a friend's going to be have more skin in the game to want to help you and help you do good than somebody that's not. So
Absolutely.
yeah, we see a lot of people that you know decide they want to become dealers, which again, super cool. I mean, what could be, that's one of the coolest things I could think of out there. They're making knives or like selling knives and getting to, buy and sell knives all day. That's pretty cool. But I think everybody needs to be aware of what all goes into it and what you need to be able to offer. And in the beginning, as a newer maker and newer brand and stuff, I realized that, you know, I couldn't be as picky about who I worked with dealer wise because I mean when you don't have a name and a reputation built up yet, you kind of gotta take what you can get to a certain extent. And it's kind of the reverse too for if you're a dealer and you're starting out. Like, nothing at all wrong with going straight to the big dogs and whoever that may be, and above us for sure. We ain't big dogs, so
We
but
have some big dogs. Does
we
that count?
get some big
Like,
dogs. But it's nothing wrong with reaching out to people, but whoever you reach out to, I would say make sure that you have a clear understanding and you can clearly articulate what you're going to offer and like what specific segment of the market that you feel like you can hit that maybe other dealers, are overlooking or something. Like, where's your niche? If you can find a niche, then, maybe whatever it may be. It may be your personality and doing videos and stuff where you use whatever your personality is as you're a good salesperson. Absolutely. That's a great way to kind of find your own niche. It can be whatever, but find something other than just saying, "Hey, I'm a dealer," and whatever. I always like it when somebody comes to us and they can articulate what they're got to offer, not just, "Hey, I'm
well,
I'm
I think a lot of people, again, because, you know, Clay and Courtney and American Edge and DLT, they all make it look so easy
yeah,
that I think that they think, well, I'll get people lined up to sell their knives and then I'll start a website. So,
yeah,
like, we'll get approached lots with people who haven't even started a website yet.
yeah."
Like, I'm not sure where they're planning on selling them, but yeah, have a thoughtful plan in place.
And I would recommend to you again. I mean, and everybody may be different, but for sure, if you're going to reach out to some of the bigger companies and stuff, like, don't put the cart before the horse. Don't, I personally would not probably reach out to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm about to have a whatever." I get it that you've got to have product to sell before you can be a knife dealer, but it doesn't cost that much to set up a pretty basic website and stuff. At least, like, you can at least get started and have something to show where you can send them a link, send them an idea of like what the template's going to look like, or your website, or something. In other words, you may have to invest a little bit of time and effort and money into it to get started, and not just say, "Hey, I'm gonna," like I definitely wouldn't have, from the other end of it, I wouldn't have started as a knife maker and be like, "Hey, I'm fixing to start making knives. Like, would you like to carry my knives?" Like, who would have carried my knives? Nobody. Like, they would have wanted to see they would have been like, "Okay, well, when you get some knives done, bring them to us and we'll take a look and then we'll go from there." So it's kind of the same way, when you get a site built or you get a social media presence built up or whatever, then holler at us and we'll take a look at it. But you can't expect for the knife maker or the knife company to allow you to come in from with nothing when you wouldn't do that for them. Like, again, your new knife maker can't come up, and say, "Hey, haven't made a knife yet, but I'm going to, and I want to be one of your brands." Like, that, it just doesn't work that way. So, highly recommend make sure that you find yourself some sort of niche, kind of like find something that you offer. And it may just be that, you may come from a marketing background. You may be a fantastic photographer or videographer. You may be really good at website design or whatever. I mean, that may be your strong suit, and that's great, But also, like I said, if you can find a niche, if you can find a section of the market that's kind of underserved and try to fill that, use your personality, use whatever to make you stand out. I think that makes a difference, because just like there's tons of knife makers out there, there's tons of dealers out there, especially when you start getting down in the kind of smaller range. Even the bigger ones there's actually quite a few that are big online retailers and have brick and mortars. Like there's a pretty decent number of those, but when you start getting down to people that are like online only and a little bit smaller, there really are a lot of them. So try to do something to stand out. Make sure you get at least some of your ducks in a row before you approach. And I don't know that we've ever had anybody do this voluntarily, but another thing I would recommend is, if you're first getting started as a dealer or trying to get started, is maybe be willing, it's not that hard to find out what the average percentage is that, but for dealer cost, what wholesale prices are. So maybe offer to come in a little better pricing for them. In other words, charge them a little, you get less discount. You pay a little bit more to get your foot in the door and get started. That's always an option, I know in the beginning, I feel like, I can't remember for sure, I feel like in the beginning of the custom days, I had to offer more of a discount to some of the dealers than we ended up. Until we got our reputation up and they, learned that they could actually sell our stuff or whatever. So, just don't have to do that, but it's something to think about.
One of my favorite dealer stories is Brandon at NC Blade. He actually started his knife company because he flipped a few knives online, and he was like, I think there's something to this. And he built it he truly built it from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very, very cool.
That's pretty similar to Clay's story at E-Knives too. I think
Clay's been doing it longer.
Clay's been doing it longer, but very similar too. And I think his was more, I want to say he had some Spydercos from somewhere, kind of a collection or something. I can't remember exactly. He's told me before, but it's been a while. But kind of similar. And a lot of people there's a lot of people now, especially, that start off kind of flipping and try to turn it into being a dealer. And it's definitely doable. I mean, those guys have done it, but at the same time, it's harder than it looks, guys. I mean, just like making knives in a lot of ways is harder than it looks. Not that it's not doable. It's 100% doable.
Well, I think anytime you're going to start a business, it's harder than it looks.
Yeah. We've definitely learned that, haven't we? So that's, for sure. But at the same time, we want knives to spread to every corner of every country and everything else. So there's room. But try to make sure that you're bringing something to the table, and ideally something different and special to the table if you can. Just like knife makers and knife companies try to, while yes, naturally knives start to kind of look alike between some companies and stuff, but if the ones that do a good job, typically, they're able to do something that stands out from the crowd. Doesn't have to be wild and crazy, but something that kind of differentiates them from the crowd. And so trying to do that as a dealer is kind of the same principle, I feel like.
That all being said, I love our dealers.
Yeah.
I think that they're all fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And we very much appreciate them, especially they have a reach that we don't have yet.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even ship internationally. We did with our prior website. We used to ship internationally, but since the new website rolled out, it's only been a couple of weeks that we've even shipped internationally again.
Right.
So they take up a lot of slack on things like that, and their customer base is usually very, very broad. So
yeah, that's, and again, especially the ones that really put a lot of effort into it. And because believe me, I've learned just in the last year to 2 years how much difference there is between just building a website, because the website we had before, I just built it from a template like on GoDaddy or whatever, like just kind of plug and play. like didn't know anything about the search engine optimization stuff, any of that, and now we of course got an IT guy, and then we've got somebody else that gives us some input on some of that stuff too. And like, there's a lot more to it than I realized by a long shot. And so that can really help to boost you ahead a lot. If you don't know about it, I mean, you can, Google, Chat GPT, whatever, like you can learn a lot pretty quick and pretty easy. So the information's out there. There's no reason not to learn it. But yeah, there's a lot more to it than just getting up a website, and a lot of stuff that I still don't even know. I'm still learning every day about that stuff. So, but I would say one of the biggest things, advice I could give for somebody being a dealer or whatever, and for what a maker or a company to look for in a dealer, is people that are good people of good character that do the right thing by people. That's important. You want people
Definitely.
that are going to, because while technically they're technically the people that buy our knives from a dealer, that's their customer, but they're still our customer too. You know what I mean? Like, we might not be selling directly to them, but they're buying our product, so they're our customer. So you want your customers to be taken care of. And so having dealers that are good people and take care of people and are good character makes a lot of difference. Like that, and it could harm your brand if you have somebody that, for whatever reason there's an issue, and they, and it's happens to be your knife that they bought, and they treat the customer poorly over it. Well, even though it's not your fault, it could definitely change their opinion about your brand as well. I think whether that's fair or not, it could happen. So trying to look for people that are, not that I know of any off the top of my head that aren't good people of good character, but something to look out for sure. So let's see. We may have about beaten the dealers to death. The topic of dealers. I'm trying to think. That, like you said, though, I cannot say that I'm not at all. I hope none of this came across as like, dogging on dealers, because not at all. I mean, we're very, very.
And to answer the question, no, we do not plan on going away from dealers.
No. Yeah.
That's not in the cards right now.
And so that's a good point. So another thing is, a lot of it depends on where your business is at. So for us, we're still very much trying to grow. Like, we're on a growth trajectory. We're doing everything we can to try to grow the brand. We're trying to get, like I talked about earlier, we're still trying to get where we can put out more knives. We're working very hard on marketing and stuff, with trying to do more marketing, reach out and capture new audiences, stuff like that. So like, we're very much, we're in a little different position. Like, in other words, they asked that question as compared to like Emerson Knives. So Emerson Knives is way, way, way more established than we are. I mean, they've been established for 30 years. So like, they're in a little bit different position to, and I don't want to speak for Ernie. I don't know exactly what he's trying to do, but I don't know that he's necessarily trying to like double in size. Matter of fact, when we interviewed him, I think he said something about, kind of almost intentionally trying to operate at a certain level and not necessarily trying to get above a certain number of employees or whatever. I think I remember him saying something along that lines. So like, right now for us, we don't really have a cap on how big we're wanting to grow. Like, we're trying to push and see how far we can take this thing. So that's a little different mindset than somebody that basically is already producing the number of knives that they want to produce, and they don't care to produce any more. And whether or not, how good they can sell that number of knives determines a lot of whether they need dealers and stuff or not. So, that's another big thing. Like, not everybody has the same business model going, or is in the same phase of business as other people,
Well, and I doubt very seriously that anybody has the same goals. So, I mean,
right. That's right. Yeah. Because again, some people's goal is to get like to a certain size where they're at a certain comfort level, and just be able to maintain that and keep putting out good quality products. And they don't necessarily want, because for sure, just from the growth that we've had already, as you grow, there are more headaches. Each level you hit brings more different unique problems and stuff. So it's and some people want to hit a certain level, and that's where they want to be. And once they're at that level, they're not necessarily worried about pushing farther and farther and farther and farther. So then they maybe just push on, their products, whatever, like trying to come up with new stuff and stuff like that. So yeah, the season that your business is in, your goals that your business are in, all that stuff how the goals that you have make a big difference on what you need as far as dealers or not. So yeah, for us, 100%, we love our dealers. We're going to keep working with them, and probably keep expanding our network some. We, like you mentioned earlier, we have gotten more selective, but some of that
we kind of had to.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, we will always take care of our dealers that have been with us for a long time.
Right.
And I mean, we're talking years and years of building these relationships.
Right.
And like I said, they're also our friends.
Right.
We're always going to take care of them first.
Right.
We will selectively take on new people here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but most new people are going to get told no right now.
Yeah. We can't bring on new people at the expense of not being able to get enough product to our established dealers.
Well, and also, like, we want to be able to do exclusives with our current dealers. We
Yep.
want to be able to accommodate to them because,
Yep.
again, we do have a relationship.
That's right.
They work hard for us. We try to work hard for them. So it doesn't leave as much time to take on, especially because too, and this is not a complaint in any way, but a lot of the new people that are asking to be dealers also want that to go with some kind of exclusive. Well, we have dealers that we've never done exclusives for, so we certainly can't take somebody new on and immediately do an exclusive for.
That's kind of a big ask for, it's because, like you said, that's actually something that we're working hard right now to do a lot more of too with the new stuff. It also includes doing more exclusives. You guys will see you've already seen some of them coming out, and you're going to see more of that in the near future of having exclusive stuff with dealers. So I think DLT, for example, just showed their exclusive with those Tiger Stripe blades, which I'm so excited about. I really, really like those. I've been wanting to do that for a while. So if you hadn't seen those yet, go check out DLT. They've got the exclusive for now. They've got the exclusive on the Tiger Stripe blades on the Dixons, and I personally really, really like them. But anyway, yeah, stuff like that. We've got some more coming up with a couple of other dealers. So really, really excited about that. But yeah, that's one of those things that's like, yeah, it's probably better if you're established and stuff like that, because that's one of those special things that's kind of like a special favor. And of course, everybody that's a dealer or whatever wants to have something that nobody else has got. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean,
you also have to work your way to that level to
right.
where you can get that.
You got to think from the reverse side. I'd love to have a dealer that only carried our stuff. You know what I mean? Like that carried our, where there's more exclusive. And
anybody out there only want to carry McNeese products
and still has a good reach. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you got to think about it from both sides. Like it's you're asking for special stuff that nobody else is going to have. And I'll be honest with you, that's honestly one of the hardest things for me as the kind of creative side of stuff with the company, is constantly coming up with new things to do and stuff to be exclusive, and not pigeonholing ourselves to the point where, okay, it's a cool idea for something, but it's kind of generic enough that, like, I don't necessarily want to limit ourselves to, like, okay, we tell a dealer it's going to be an exclusive for them, and maybe they only ever buy 50 or 100 of them. But if we'd have done it for ourselves, then could we have sold 1,000 or 2,000? That we shoot ourselves in the foot by limiting it to an exclusive to a dealer where we could have gotten way more mileage out of that particular design or whatever. And sometimes dealers have their own stuff, which obviously we're not going to do ourselves. Like if it's something that's proprietary to them, like we do the Gaia with Urban EDC. So, and we've been doing that for a while, even back on like laser and stuff on other production models and stuff for them. So, but we would probably never do the Sagaya on our own
Right.
because of that. So there's stuff like that. But when it's something like we're coming up with the special thing or whatever, the variation, like I always have to weigh that between, okay, you know, what's the dealer willing to commit to? How good do I think the idea is, and how, how many units do I think we can sell with that, and is giving that exclusive to a dealer versus selling it ourselves, is it gonna make sense?
Well, and also a
So
lot of times with exclusives, comes a lot more work
yeah,
into those designs or the milling or the handwork or whatever.
yeah,
And but we still try to keep the price the same. So you got to balance that. And then sometimes we do something and we're not able to replicate it again. So
that's happened. Yep,
it just kind of depends
yeah,
on what's going on. And
it does. And yeah, you're right. There's that's another thing you have to weigh in, is like, how much time am I going to put in on this on the front end to make this happen versus how many are they thinking they're going to buy. Somebody wants to come in and do you know, maybe 5 or 10 at a time, and maybe 50 over a course of a year, but I have to put in hours and hours and hours to get that ready. Well, I might have been better off put all those hours into something else new for us that we can just carry all the time or whatever. So like yeah, I've put quite a bit of time into some of these exclusives
well, and
to make them
everybody
work.
else may know this, but maybe not. For each model that we do, you have to do a different program for it, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's not now. I mean, it does help some. So, like, if we're talking about, say, like some sort of graphic, so the Sagaya, for example, since we mentioned it. So, I can't just totally plug and play. I can't take that from the Mac 2, and then obviously the Dixon is bigger. So when I go to overlay that, I do still have the pattern initially drawn, but when I go to put it on the Dixon, it's not big enough. And you can't just scale the whole thing to make it big enough, because then the individual pieces of the pattern are going to be too big and it's not going to look right. So what I end up having to do is I overlay it on the handle in the computer, and then I have to go back and like fill in the gaps in the design, and copying and pasting stuff. Sometimes like actually like redrawing stuff or whatever to fill in the gaps and make it fit with the handle of the different model that's going on, and vice versa. If it's going from the Dixon to the 3 inch, then I have to go through and scale it down some. I have to go trim off all the excess around the edges. Anyway, it's
And this, boys and girls, is when he starts really cussing loudly, and I share an office with him. So,
that's some of that is what makes me that way. That's usually more, especially though when like something's happening, I cannot figure out how to do something on Fusion that I'm trying to figure out. That's even worse. But yeah, that's a story for another day maybe. But yeah, I get a little frustrated sometimes with the technology, but it doesn't always do what I want it to do, or I don't know how to make it do what I want it to do. Is probably a better explanation. But so yeah, dealers, we love them. No, we're not going away from them in the foreseeable future. We're still planning on growing this brand as big as we can. We don't have plans of stopping or even slowing down anytime soon. So we're going to continue to work with dealers. We are going to be, careful about which ones we work with. Try to work with really good ones that want to be good partners for us. Um, that being said, we're not at all trying to say that we don't want new dealers to reach out to us, but we do evaluate what they bring to the table and where we're at as far as being able to, even if they seem like they bring a lot to the table, like you said, if it's going to cause a problem and us not be able to work with our existing dealers the way we need to, then we just have to pass just because we don't have the capacity to do it. But yeah, we're going to continue to do that. Highly encourage, everybody, if you have interest in being a dealer, then by all means, but try, just like if you have interest in being a knife maker, go for it, but do it the right way. Do your homework. Don't just decide, hey, I'm going to be a dealer, and it's just going to be easy. All these brands are just going to sell me stuff, and you know I'm going to throw up a website and then sell everything, and it'll be awesome. And I'll buy it, and before I even have to pay the person, I'll have it sold. I think that's the mindset that gets seen some too. Um, you got guys, some of these guys, I would honestly probably be scared to death if I had to take on what some of these guys, the dealers, have as far as like the amount of money that they have tied up in inventory at
oh
any
yeah,
given time. Like it's unreal. It blows my mind. I mean, we talk about how we got stuff tied up in machines and all that, but these guys having, that are operating on a pretty big scale, like the amount of inventory that they have to be able to float at any given time, like it's insane. And then be patient enough to know that it's going to sell, let it work its way through the system, let it get out there and all that, and not be, in a panic that they've got to sell it the day after they get it because they don't have the money to to let it sit on the shelf. So it's it's a big commitment to really do it and do it right. And hats off to the guys that do it and do it right, because I know it's not easy. So Roscoe's trying to chime in with his Valentine's Day toy back there.
Come say hi.
There you go. You can see Roscoe. Hey, buddy. Those of you on audio only, you're missing the star of the show today. Old Roscoe here. But anyway, yes. Sum it up. We love our dealers. Being a dealer is not easy. If you're going to be a dealer, bring value. And if you're going to be a knife maker, bring value to the dealers. And then it's a complementary relationship, and it works out really well because we've got a lot of dealers that it has worked out really well, and we'll continue to do so. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this stuff. Just if you have questions or stuff about how anything works about the relationship between dealers and knife makers or knife companies, then please drop a question in the comments. Don't forget, you can always send us questions through the knifefreakshow@gmail.com. That's knife, no the on the front, just knifefreakshow@gmail.com.
Are you checking that email?
Huh?
Are you checking that email?
As of today, yes, I am checking that email.
I don't have logins, so I'm clearly not checking
That's one of those things that I'll admit that was Chase handled that when he was helping me, and so I have not gotten in the habit of that, but I will go check it. I have been checking the YouTube comments though. I have done that. So yes, please guys, please give us feedback. We'd love it if you'd hop on and do after you listen to this, just pop over and give us a review. You don't have to actually even type out anything. Just hit the stars, whatever. Just help us out. Help us spread the show. The last thing on the dealers, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this today is because over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're actually planning to have some of our dealer friends on as guests. So I thought this would be a good way to kind of segue into that. So be on the lookout for that. And we appreciate you guys. Please let us know what you'd like to hear, questions, comments, and everything. And keep on being freaky.
See y'all later.